Welcome to the O'Colly Tipoff Show. I'm Jacob Patterson. I'm joined here with my good friend Tyler Tripodi. Oklahoma State basketball, and they are hosting Iowa State today down the street at Gallagher-Iba Arena. Any first takeaways about that game that you want to bring up?
We got a couple of takeaways here. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna get into that later. What I want to start off with is that Bedlam game because I'm sorry, Jacob, there is nothing better than a Bedlam win.
Amen to that.
And especially a Bedlam win that's as dominant as that one was.
That was a fantastic game. Oklahoma State dominating. I have a very strong second half, of course. They ended up winning 72-56, I think it was. So
72-56, that's right.
A great win for that. Well, it ended a 3-game skid as well. They had lost 3 in a row up to that point, an ugly 3 losses, but really put together a great game against OU on Wednesday night.
And I do think it's important that the 3-game skid comes to an end against a team like OU.
Yes.
When you can come in off of a 3-game losing streak and beat the tar out of your rival like that, I mean, that's always a great thing. Especially when you consider that it really wasn't one player. It was a team effort. I mean, we had 4 guys who all went over double digits in points. That doesn't happen very often for this team.
Anderson, Thompson, Boone, and Woody Newton making his first start, all going for double digits. And Anderson and Thompson specifically, they combined for 33 points. That was the most this year. So it was a really impressive offensive night, which is, OSU's offense not been that great this year. It was really impressive to see that.
Not that great is definitely right where I'd put him. But another person I want to talk about is Woody Newton. Like you said, making his first start, he came in, he played admirably for the Cowboys. I mean, 12 points, he had a block, a steal, 5 rebounds. I'm seeing things I like. Those are good things.
Season high in minutes and the points for him, and as well, he was making the start for Woody Newton. It was a surprising start. Nobody was really expecting him. They were in the lineup configurations. He gets the slot in, makes his first start, and balls out. Depending on the Musa Cisse situation today, he might have just earned a second start tonight.
He certainly might have, and I think we'll get into that Musa Cisse situation a little bit later. But all in all, a dominant win from the Cowboys and a great way to get back into the win column and start gaining some momentum as we get further into conference play here, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. It was the second Big 12 win. The last 3 had not been, the last 3 Big 12 games, not great. You had the ugly loss against Texas. You had who'd they play before then? They played Kansas State, and that was okay. That was not great. And then they, had the big loss to Baylor. That was ugly. But massive improvement from those 3 games to the game on Wednesday night against OU on just a lot of almost every offensive category.
100% agree. And speaking of 100%, Bryce Thompson, 100% from 3 and from the free throw.
Yeah, that's unusual.
I mean, he's been what? He's 60% from the free throw line, I think.
Yeah,
and he's 40% from 3.
3. He's doing better as of late on the 3, but free throws is really where I think he's kind of at the bottom end. I think he's not great with free throws. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
He's one of the worst guys on the free throw line this year so far.
And I mean to come in, and to be fair, he did only take 2 of them, but excuse me, he did only take 2 of them.
Yeah.
But to be able to just make those 2, even if it is only 2, just start gaining some confidence. When you go up to that line, free throws automatic. You want to be able to walk up to that line and know you're going to hit it.
You never know when those free throws are going to come in handy too. Because I remember the Texas game, watching that. There were some free throw attempts down the stretch that they just weren't hitting them, and it was extremely frustrating because that was a 1-2 possession game coming down the stretch and then OSU needed those free throws, and they just didn't get them.
Exactly, and it's not only frustrating for us as viewers, it's frustrating for the players.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you get up there and it's something as supposedly simple as a free throw, and you're just not hitting them when you absolutely need to, it really shatters, not only your confidence shooting, but just the confidence in the team as a whole. And to come in and have a performance like they did, moving forward, they're going to need to continue stringing together performances like that.
Yep.
But I think that was a great starting point.
Yep, especially because in that skid, I'll go back to that 3-game losing streak, because that was bad. I think that's something that needs to be really focused on. That was a really bad losing streak against really good competitive teams. They shot 34% from the field during those 3 games, only 24.2% from 3. That's not bad. And I know the numbers that they've been, the field goal percentage and 3-point percentage just overall in the season, they're not great, but that especially that's bottom of all of college basketball right there.
That's about as bad as it gets right there.
And then they go have a home game against Bedlam. It's the first game back from winter break, and they go and shoot 40% from the field goal, 40% from 3-point, drop 72, which they were averaging. They weren't, they were averaging something in the 50-point range during that 3-game skid. Hit the 72. I think it was a big reset button, especially going into this game against Iowa State.
Yeah, I again agree with you 100%. Now, before we get into that game against Iowa State,
yes,
I think let's take a quick break and let's look around the nation at some of the games that we've got going on today.
Nationwide games. I will start because there's a game going on now that we want to hit on. It's Miami versus Duke. It's halftime, 38-38. So Miami, reason why I picked this game, Miami last year eliminated Iowa State from the Sweet 16 of March Madness, and Duke coming off of a Final Four run. They're both some very good tournament teams to look at and kind of gauge as we get closer and closer through the season. So Miami is 6-2 versus the ACC. Duke 4-3. For Duke, it's the first game not in the top 25 this year. The two big takeaways I've gotten so far from this game, and I got from the preview as well, is Duke has had trouble on offense, and then which could. I lost my train of thought there. Anyway, moving on to Miami. They're flipping from they're playing Syracuse's defense to Duke's defense. It's different fundamentally. So it's looking to be a good game. Tied 38 at halftime. So it's a really big game for both of those teams.
And I mean, tied 38 at halftime is kind of where I was expecting this game to be at.
Yeah.
I mean, these are two both very good teams. Obviously, Miami ranked, Duke not. But I still think
Duke just dropped out.
They're
on the 25-30
right
range.
on that cusp.
Yeah.
But I definitely was going to see a close game here. I was expecting that. So to see 38-38 at halftime, not surprising to me. I do think Miami will end up pulling away with it, though.
Yeah. Okay. What you got?
So the first game I want to talk about is one of the only, I believe there's only 2 games this week that's between 2 ranked opponents. This one's UCLA at Arizona.
Yep.
So UCLA right now, number 5. They're on a 14-game win streak, and they have not lost a Pac-12 game yet.
Okay.
Arizona, a little bit of a different story. They're 5-3 in conference play. They've lost 2 of their last 4.
Yeah.
They're looking to kind of start gaining some momentum as they get later into conference play, start getting some confidence in the team. UCLA, known for making late pushes. I mean, in their last game, I believe in the last 2 games, they've outscored their opponents. I think it was like 54-17 in the last 10 minutes. Something crazy like that. They've been really great in those last 10 minutes of games. Here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
UCLA, they have a pick-and-roll offense. They like to get in. They don't like to shoot from 3. They really only have one reliable 3-point shooter, and that's David Singleton. He's shooting 45.6 from the 3.
Gotcha.
Arizona is 2 really great big men. I mean, they dominate the paint. You have, Ballo and Tubelis, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I'm 100% probably butchering that, and that's my apologies. But they're 9th in 2-point offense. I mean, the paint is where they live.
Okay.
And against a team like UCLA, when you're not that you're necessarily worried about the 3, but it's not the biggest piece of their offense. I do think Arizona's going to come in. They're going to hand UCLA their first loss.
Okay.
Not their first loss, their first conference loss. They're going to end the win streak, and they're just going to dominate the paint. I do think UCLA will make a late comeback, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
Yep. I mean, it's between 2, top 15 teams. I mean, UCLA's 5, Arizona's 11. High aspirations for this season, especially towards the end. It looks like Arizona's a 2-point favorite at home. They just, I remember, I think over last weekend they suffered a kind of a
bit of an ugly one.
An ugly loss, not something that they're not used to against Oregon last week on the road. So they're definitely trying to rebound from that. UCLA is UCLA. They're pretty solid this year. So yeah, I think that's going to be a really good game. I think Arizona at home should pull away, but I would not be expecting a UCLA upset there.
Fair enough. What's your next game?
My next game, I've got Alabama versus Missouri. So Alabama is their number 4 in the nation. They've been on a really big hot streak. They absolutely destroyed Kentucky, I think, last week. They destroyed LSU over the weekend. Last weekend. They're coming in. They're 16-2. They're undefeated in the SEC. Missouri, a little bit of a surprise team. They're 14-4. They're 3-3 in the SEC. They're very surprising. They had a really bad year. I think they went 12-21, something in that range last year. That's the new head coach this year. And it's a very surprising season for a Missouri team that was not impressive last year. Something else to note of: Alabama, they've won 8 in a row. Of course, with the 2 marquee blowouts of Kentucky and LSU, but they're dealing with some off the court issues with Darius Miles. It's a mental toll on the players because Miles was a really good offensive key point for them. But Alabama, their 2 biggest things, they score a lot of points, and they're really good at rebounding.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've got for that game. I think Alabama, Alabama is on the road versus Missouri. They're Bama's 5-point favorites. I think there's a really good chance that Missouri can pull off the upset here. I think they split in the 2 games last year. So I'm going to go with Alabama, but it's going to be a really close game.
I think I'm going to agree with you there on the Alabama. Excuse me. I think I'm going to agree with you there on Alabama, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Missouri, they're going to make it a game. I'll tell you that much. But I think Alabama's shown the consistency, even with the off-court issues. They've shown the ability to continue to perform, continue to play well, and I think that's going to continue into this game.
Mm-hmm. All right, what's your next game?
I'll keep it in the SEC with you. I got Tennessee, LSU.
Yep.
All right. So now that's number 9 Tennessee. LSU's unranked.
Mm-hmm.
Now, conference play has not been kind to the Tigers, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have lost 6 of their last 7.
Mm-hmm.
And they really need to get things going down there in Baton Rouge. Now, luckily for them, the game is at home, and LSU has a great home crowd.
Yep.
This is a rivalry game, and Tennessee, I mean, they're number 9 in the nation for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming off a close win against Mississippi State. They needed the last kind of 5 minutes to put that one away. But they've been missing, 2 of their big guys. They've been missing Santiago Vescovi and Tyreek Key. Both of those guys should be back for this game, as well as you had guys like Josiah Jordan-James pulled up big for them last game, Julian Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're going to continue to see those contributions from these guys, and especially going into a team like LSU, they're dangerous. Don't get me wrong. They're a very good basketball team, but I do think that when you're with LSU, their success is tied to KJ Williams.
Okay.
His performance is the reason that they play well. They haven't really been seeing contributions from anywhere else on the court. And I think as long as the Tennessee can lock up KJ Williams, not even lock him up, but just limit him, I think you'll see Tennessee run away with this one. But the key for them is really going to be getting away with it early. Getting in early, putting LSU away, and just going from there and coasting from there. That's the key for me.
Yep, Tennessee, 11-point favorites coming into that game. They did suffer a home loss versus Kentucky, so they're not unbeatable. But they're definitely the ranked 9th, and LSU's in ranks. So that's something big there. Do we have time for one more game, I think?
I think we can go through one more game.
Through one more game? Okay, so my game, last one I got, Gonzaga versus Pacific. All right. Gonzaga, number 6th. Everyone knows the story about them. All right. They're struggling, though, which is very rare for them in the WCC. And we'll keep driving into that game. We're going to head to, I think, a quick commercial break here in a second. We'll get back with Gonzaga Pacific. We'll move it back into Big 12 games, and then finally we'll hit this matchup. So we'll hit that commercial break anytime.
Hi, I'm Amanda Akins. I'm the owner of Hurricane Dixie Leather. I started this company back in about 2015, and I think that one of the most unique things about our store is that we're not just your everyday mom and pop leather shop. We use a lot of color and unique techniques that set us apart from others. We are a full Wrangler retailer. We have lots of Wrangler jeans and shirts. We've also got some other fun boutique clothes, and everything, all the leather goods in the store are made here in the shop. We also accept custom orders.
Our state is one of the most beautiful and unique states in the USA. With diverse geographies, the historic Route 66, unforgettable restaurants, and some of the greatest people on the planet. With so much to see and so much to do, living in Oklahoma means one of the best vacation spots is right in our own backyard. Doesn't this story need to be told? As filmmakers and photographers based right here in Oklahoma, we thought so. And hey, who doesn't like a good road trip? So, we packed up our cameras, teamed up with Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell and the Oklahoma Tourism and Recreation Department, and that's how this series was born. We want to show you why traveling within the great state of Oklahoma is a great idea. So come join us for thousands of miles over the next year, from Broken Bow to Black Mesa. This is the Oklahoma Road Trip.
Welcome back to the O'Colly tip-off. We were, as we ended the last segment, we were introducing the Gonzaga Pacific game. Gonzaga, number 6, everyone knows their story. Usually dominant in conference play. That's usually, how they get a lot of their merit going into the tournament, but they're struggling. They had a lot of one-possession games, and then they lost at home to Loyola Marymount. That was a 75-game home win streak for conference play. So that streak is done. They also lost their 11-game win streak there. A big game there. And this game isn't necessarily concerning for them. They're on the road. They're at Pacific. Pacific, they're 10-11. They're not great. But the reason why I brought this game up, they're led by former OSU players Donovan Williams and Caleb Bruton's twin brother, Kalen Boone. So that's why I wanted to bring up that game. See if Gonzaga can rebound and just maybe, hey, we can get some former OSU guys balling out there on the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could see some former OSU guys balling out, but I think Gonzaga, they'll come in, they'll get the win, they'll clean up. I don't want to say that the loss to Loyola was a blip on the radar, but if I'm Gonzaga, I'm not terribly worried at the moment.
Yeah.
All win streaks come to an end eventually.
That's pretty much what Mark Few, their coach, said.
Exactly.
So.
And I have to agree with him there.
Okay. All right. Do you want to move on Big 12 now?
Yeah, why don't we get into the Big 12? Because we've got some interesting games this week.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I want to start with the team that most recently just dominated OSU. Let's get into the Baylor game.
Okay.
Because Baylor's going to be playing OU.
Okay.
Now, obviously,
Go Bears.
Go Bears indeed.
Go Bears.
Just for this week, though.
Yeah.
Obviously, we beat OU. We beat them pretty badly, but Baylor beat us pretty badly. Transferative properties would dictate that Baylor's going to blow out OU, but what do you think?
Well, Baylor, they had a little bit of a rough start to conference play. They've won 3 in a row, though, and in that 3-game win streak, they're limiting turnovers. We'll get more into that in a second. They also have a high-scoring offense. OU, of course, just came off of the loss in Bedlam, an ugly loss, and they're struggling in Big 12 play. The turnovers thing, the reason why I brought up the turnovers, OU cannot force turnovers.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Little bit, Baylor might have an easy way with the basketball later today, and also they just score a lot of points.
Yeah.
So they're ranked number 21. The Baylor's just a really good team.
Personally, I just think this is going to be a nice, easy win for Baylor. They're going to come in and they're going to let OU know who's boss right off the bat.
Yeah. The only issue I have with that is I think it's in Norman, so. Anything can happen on the road, but I expect Baylor to dominate in this game.
I agree with you
pretty easily.
I agree with you there.
That game, I think, is a 3 p.m. tip, by the way. I'll swing back to the game that's tipped off already. They're about 5 minutes in. Kansas is hosting number 14 ranked TCU. That's Kansas, number 2, defending champs. Kansas coming in, they just lost their first Big 12 game. They got upset on the road against their interstate rivals, Kansas State. TCU is also struggling. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They do have a very elite guard and Mike Miles Jr., who's really been popping off for them today. It's currently TCU 16-13. They just got back from a commercial break. So what do you have about this game?
I mean, looking at this game, 16-13 right now. They just tipped off a few minutes ago. There is nothing that leaves a worse taste in your mouth than losing to an interstate rival like Kansas did. I mean, 83-82, that is a rough loss.
Yeah, especially overtime, close game. You thought you had it in the bag, and then
all of a sudden you're walking out of there with a loss. I think that's a team that is angry right now. They are looking to get back on the court. They're looking to show the college landscape why they are ranked number 2.
Yep.
They're going out there and they want a statement win. And personally, it's at home for the Jayhawks too.
Oh yeah.
I think that advantage can't be disputed in this game, and I think Kansas is going to come in. I don't think they're going to dominate, but I do think they're going to win by 6 or 8.
6 or 8. So looks like it's a good game so far. They're hitting the 14-minute mark in the first half. TCU 16, Kansas 13. So we got a really good one in the books. I'll let you pick the next game. We got 2 left. Which one do you want to talk about?
Why don't we go to Texas,
Texas,
West Virginia?
Okay.
Because the thing with Texas, there's been a little bit of instability since Beard's been fired.
Yep.
And I feel like that's going to bite him this game. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, they just lost big to Iowa State, who's obviously where OSU's playing today. They're just having a really up and down season. They were having an up and down season, a little bit more stability when Chris Beard, their head coach, was here, but he got put on leave, then he got fired, and it's really just been an up and down season for them this year when they had once again another high aspiration preseason. And West Virginia, while they're not great, OSU beat them a few like last week, I think.
Yeah.
They're a wild card upset team, and they just did upset TCU on Wednesday, 14th ranked TCU. So, and it's in West Virginia, I think.
Yeah,
Is that
it's
what
in
we?
West
It's in
Virginia.
West Virginia. I mean, I think there's a really big option for opportunity for an upset there. West Virginia is a 1-point favorite.
This is one I agree with you with. I think West Virginia takes it at home. They're a sneaky good team. They've pulled off upsets before, and I think Texas, they're gonna drop a few more before they start to figure things out.
Yep. 15-3. The Longhorns were 15-3 overall, 4-2 in conference play. They're coming in off of a loss to Iowa State. West Virginia's 11-7. They just got their first Big 12 win by beating TCU on Wednesday. All right, leaves us with one more game. Currently sitting on the throne of the Big 12, Kansas State Jayhawks. They have another home game. They beat Kansas on Tuesday. They're currently tied for first in the Big 12, but they've got the tiebreaker with Kansas, so that puts them up in that number one spot. Keontae Johnson has been a big piece of their success for their second year head coach. They have a newer head coach up there, but it's a really good Jayhawks team up there. And Texas Tech, a little bit, they're on the opposite end.
And a down year for them.
Yeah, a really down year for them. They've lost 6 in a row. They're the only winless team in the Big 12 in terms of conference play right now, and they're just having a down year. They're on the opposite end of the little curve that Kansas State's on.
Here's the thing: Kansas State just beat the number 2 team in the country, 83-82.
Yep.
Now they're taking on the only I think Big 12 winless team, or the only winless team in conference play in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Texas Tech they've been a good team for years. They're having a down year, and I think Kansas State's going to capitalize on that.
Yeah, I think it's in Kansas State. I think they continue rolling. They beat Kansas. They're on a hot streak right now, and I think they can keep that rolling versus a not a great Texas Tech squad. Anything else you want to add on that last game before we move on to today's game?
I think that'll do it for me. I think let's get to the moment we've been waiting for.
All right.
This Iowa State team.
Oh yeah.
Give me your thoughts on it. I mean, they're coming in. They've got a couple of big wins. They're ranked. A bit of a surprise this year. They're number 12.
Yep.
And this will be the first meeting this season.
Yep. Iowa State, they're 14-3 this year. They're 5-1 in the Big 12. So they've got that. They're tied for first with Kansas and Kansas State. They're technically third because they lose that tiebreaker to the Jayhawks. They're 2-2 on the road. We'll get more of that in a little bit. They're 4-3 versus ranked teams. They're number 12 in the AP poll. They're a really solid team. They're good on offense. They're really good on defense. There's a reason they're ranked 12th. There's a reason they've got a really good record, and they're just a really solid team. In terms of a statistical standpoint, they're a really good team. I think there's no skirting around that.
I agree. And on the court, I mean, it's the same thing. You figure they're 4 or 5 in their last 5 games, coming off that 78-67 win over Texas.
Really beat Texas really bad.
Outside of that Kansas loss, and here's the thing: that Kansas loss, they only lost 62-60. It wasn't like, they got blown out. It wasn't they got beat big. They lost by a layup.
Yep.
This is a team that has momentum. This is a team that has ability, skill. They've got talent. I think they're going to come in and they're going to give OSU a real challenge here.
Oh, yeah. Well, easily. I mean, they're 12th in the nation. The team is elite. All right. I think you kind of had a little taste of it last year. They were 11 seed in the March Madness. They ran to the Sweet 16. Just had an awful game against Miami. So they were a win away, a very winnable game away from making it to the Elite Eight. I think that was a really good thing they made. They were introduced in the top 25. They beat then number 1 UNC. They've been a mainstay of the rankings. They've beaten a ranked UNC, ranked Baylor, ranked Texas, ranked TCU. They've got wins over OU Tech. I mean, it just adds up. They're a solid team
after ranked win.
Oh yeah.
And I think a big reason for that, and this is a guy that I want to talk about because I want to start getting into some of these players because they've got some studs on this team.
Yes. Oh yeah.
First guy I want to talk about is Gabe. I believe Kolschauer is how you pronounce his last name. Kolschauer.
Yeah, something like that.
I apologize if I'm butchering that. But 111 conference points.
Yeah.
That's 6 games. He's averaging 18.5 points per game in conference play.
Yeah, no, he's been. I mean, he's an emerging threat, and not only is the conference play. I mean, 7 of it. That's an impressive in conference play. 7 of last 8. He's reached double digits. The only game was against. He did not reach that against OU. He's shooting. He's averaging 17.3 points per game. I think he's the leading scorer by average, right? On Iowa State.
No, I believe you're correct.
So he's 45% from 3.
Yeah.
I mean, he hits.
He's draining shots.
Yeah, So yeah, he's a big part of their offensive
And
success.
even in that Texas game, he had 16 points in 34 minutes. I mean, the guy's been going crazy recently, and he's a big part of Iowa State's recent success. And I think if if they continue to ride that hot hand, I think they're going to continue to dominate. They're going to continue to win. You know, another guy I want to get into is Jaron Holmes.
Yep.
He leads Iowa State in points, field goals, free throws. I mean, what more are you asking from a guy?
I know he really is the biggest scoring threat. I think consistent scoring threat. While Gabe Kalsch, however you pronounce that name, I don't want to butcher it. He's been hot as of late, but Holmes has really just been the consistent scoring threat for the Cyclones. He's a guard transfer from St. Bonaventure, who is generally a really good March Madness team.
That's a tournament team pretty much every year.
Yeah. He's shooting over 40% from the field.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's just a really good threat. One other guy, Caleb Grill. He's the third Iowa State guard that's averaging double-digit points. He also leads Iowa State in rebounds, and he has the highest three-point percentage among regular players.
Yeah,
he's another elite threat at guard that Oklahoma State's going to have to worry about.
He's been really great. The only thing with Caleb Grill is he's a little streaky sometimes. You know, he'll get hot and then he'll get a little cold, but overall, he has been dominant. It's the storyline with this Iowa State team. They have just dominant guys leading their team who are going in, putting up points, and getting it done for the team.
Yep. I mean, they're a really good team. They're led by those three. They've got a lot of good players that come in off the bench. You know, the other two starters are really good. I mean, this is just a really elite team. Their offense is really good. They range in the top 25 to 50% of college basketball in major offensive categories. Their defense is top 10% of college basketball.
Yeah.
So like we talk about Oklahoma State having a really good defense. Iowa State can match that.
Yeah.
Their defense is fifth most efficient, which is a big criteria maker for the March Madness tournament, which is better than OSU's. I mean, their defense is phenomenal. I mean, we were talking about scoring and points in their guards. Their defense is great.
And the thing about their defense is it's phenomenal, but you look at like their blocks. They have 51 blocks in the season. Musa Cisse has 38. I mean, we have one player who almost goes past their entire team's blocks. You know, they are a great defensive team, but there is room for improvement there.
Yeah.
You know, and like we said, we also 2-2 on the road versus 10-0 at home.
Yep.
I mean, they're also 2-1 at neutral sites, so other teams' home court advantages seem to have an effect on them.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that's something I definitely want to get more into.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely, while this team is really good, there's definitely some weaknesses and stuff we can point out with this really good team. Anything else you'd like to add?
One other thing that I want to add is they are 5-1 in conference play.
Yes.
You know, they've been doing pretty well. 5-1, 14-3 in non-conference. So I think that's something that they look at that record, and it is something they want to continue to build on because they have been doing so well on all levels of the game.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I mean, Iowa State, they're a good team. You know, they're ranked 12th for a reason. But there's some weaknesses, and we'll get into that more into the next segment. I'll head to the commercial, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Over the years, we kind of realized that you can get ribs anywhere. You can get a steak anywhere. But you can't always get a Mountain View hot link like ours. So we really decided to focus on that niche and realized we had something really special. So that's when we started focusing more on the hot links, but it's still the same family recipe they were making all those years ago. For us, many of our people that work here have been with us for years and decades. So whereas machines kind of break down over time, the people just get better. And it shows in the products we produce. When you buy a Mountain View product, not only is it going to taste dynamite, but you're also feeding Oklahomans. You're helping employ Oklahomans, and you're helping to fund the state's economy. So what's better than that?
We use the very best of the best ingredients. Demerara sugar is the best that is. Very high quality fruits, berries. The milk we use is the best milk there is. That's what makes our product stand by itself. I like to make yogurt because I like to eat yogurt. We've been doing this for ourselves for many years because it's a tradition in our family. And we want to have a product which would be very similar to French yogurt, but with our touch of uniqueness, linking our name, our products, with the reputation of the Made in Oklahoma Coalition was probably the best thing we have done as far as promoting our product.
Welcome back to the O'Cauley tip-off here. I'm Jake Patterson, joined with Tyler Tripodi. Oklahoma State versus Iowa State, just about half an hour down at Gallagher-Iba Arena. We were just finishing talking about what makes Iowa State so good, but there are some weaknesses. What do you want to start off on with that?
There certainly are some weaknesses, and I like Iowa State. They're a great team. They've got great shooters, good defense, very solid team.
Yes.
But here's the main thing: they're 10-0 at home.
Oh yeah.
2-2 away, and 2-1 at neutral sites. Now, I will say that one loss was at a neutral site against UConn when they were in the middle of that tear they went on at the beginning of the season.
UConn also beat Oklahoma State, so they're a solid team.
They certainly did. But the two losses they've had away, one of them was against in-state rival Iowa. And, so rivalry games, it is what it is. But it's not so much what their record is away, so much as what their statistical line is when they go outside of their home arena.
Yes.
I mean, they have a plus 10 point differential at home. You want to know what that goes to on the road?
It's not great. I can tell you that. Yeah.
It goes down to -4. I mean, don't get me wrong. Home court advantage is a thing, but I mean, Iowa State takes it to the max.
Yep. I mean, they're averaging. So they average their offense. They average 71 points per game.
Yeah.
On the road, in the 4 road games that they've got, they're averaging 62. They're averaging 9 less points on the road. Field goal percentage is down for the Cyclones on the road. Free throw percentage is down big time on the road, which we'll hit free throws.
Free throw
Definitely
percentage
talk about that.
goes from bad to worse
I know.
for Iowa State on the road. I mean, it is abysmal.
Their rebounding numbers, they're not great. Everything on the defense spikes up. They allow 62 points per game overall, 66 on the road. They're averaging 7% more shots on the road. The 3-point percentage. Normally they allow 30% on the road. They're averaging 40%. So I mean, it's turnovers forced per game drops down to 3. They're also averaging another turnover per game. I mean, everything. It's like this is Iowa State and this is their opponent on the road. It like squishes like this. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of those things that, you really need to go in depth about because especially considering that the Cowboys are playing them here at Gallagher-Iba Arena, here at home. We had great fan turnout against the Bedlam game. Now that everybody's back, I'm sure that'll continue. It's a Saturday. It's 1 p.m. That's something that's really going to come into play today.
Yeah, the Bedlam game. That was, in my opinion, that was the biggest advantage and the biggest difference between Wednesday's game and the previous and pretty much the rest of the season. Over 10,000 people attended the game. That's almost 80% capacity. The season high was 9,800 against the Tulsa game, but pretty much every other home game, I mean, capacity sitting around 50%. Jump that up to over 10,000 people. That was something that was big. Also, it was a record-breaking attendance in the student section that was reported on the OSU men's basketball Instagram. So the atmosphere completely different than what we've seen all season long from just the people showing up.
Certainly has, and I mean it's a great thing in any sport when your fans show up. But I mean, head coach Mike Boynton, he has been calling for the fans all season. He's been telling the fans, come out, come to the games, support your team, and they did. And OSU rewarded them big time with a huge win in a Bedlam rivalry.
Yeah, the biggest thing Boynton, especially in recent years, he's been trying to get the crowd numbers. He's trying to get the students to come. He's trying to get fans in the building. And finally, for Bedlam, greatly advertised. It's Bedlam. People are gonna show up for that. The masses came. They showed out in a big way. And guess what happened? Oklahoma State dominated OU, especially in the second half. When everyone got settled in and stuff.
Simple as that.
Dominance. Now they're calling. Today they said that if you got in line, I think at like 11:45 or something, they were handing out free pizza to the students. I mean, they're really trying to get these fans in. But you can invite and keep all that stuff trying to get fans in. But if you can't keep performing, then all that you just start with the way it was back at the beginning of the year.
But I think that's the trick, especially in a game like this. Iowa State. Not very good on the road comparatively. I mean, still a great team, but comparatively to themselves at home, they're not as good on the road. And that home court advantage is going to be a big thing today for Oklahoma State. And if they can get the fans in the building, I
Oh,
think that's why
they,
they
ha-
do
they
it.
have. I mean, it's simple. The fans have to show out, and I think there's a really good chance that this is a really good game, and OSU pulls off a massive upset.
I agree
If the
with you.
fans don't show up, I don't know.
I think it becomes closer. I think OSU still has a chance, but I think that's why you have them doing, little gimmicky things like handing out pizza to kids in line. What college kid's going to say no to free food?
exactly. Yeah, if I wasn't here right now, I'd be eating my free pizza
I'd be
in the
standing
arena.
right next to you. They're eating the pizza with you. Like, it's one of those things where that's what you have to do to get the fans in the door, then that's what you have to do. Because if that's going to translate into wins, I really don't think the university minds the cost of some
Free
pizza.
Yeah, I mean that was the OU game. Phenomenal attendance. They have to show up for Iowa State and really make it a true road atmosphere. Keeping on and talking about how they're not great at road, we talked about three Iowa State players that are really good for them. They're the leading scorers and whatnot. Jaron Holmes, biggest scoring threat, like I mentioned, completely different story on the road. He averages 13 points per game. Normally, he's only averaging 8.5 on the road. He's only hitting 35% of his field goal shots and only 29.2% from three. He's also averaging 3 turnovers per game on the road. Yeah.
I mean, and stats like that.
Holmes.
That really gives you a snapshot of the team as a whole. I mean, when you look at a player like that whose average points per game drops by almost 4 points, I mean, that's a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
Check my math. That's actually is that 5?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty much.
But the point that I'm making is that this is a team that home court advantage for opposing teams plays an enormous role in their success.
Yeah, another player, Caleb Grill. He's the third ISU guard averaging double-digit points, leads the Iowa State in rebounds, and the highest three-point percentage. He's another thing I didn't bring up about him. He's a very streaky scorer. He had 17 versus Texas, 3 against Kansas, 14 against Texas Tech, 3 against Oklahoma.
What a roller
And then he had
coaster.
20 against OU. He's averaging 12.5 points per game in college play. He's hit double digits in 5 of his last 7 games. So he's averaging 12.5 points, but on the road, averaging only 7. Field goal percentage on the road, 26%, and 3-point, and I just had it with me. 3-point is not great either.
Why
I
are
know
you
that.
pulling up 3-point? I mean, you said 26%
23.1% from 3.
23.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that's abysmal.
Yeah, some of his worst games have come on the road, but while it was, he's had some really bad games, statistics are bad. His best game of the season was the first game of the new year where he dropped 20 as Iowa State beat Oklahoma in Norman. So his best game of the year has been on the road, but his worst games of the year have also been on the road.
So I think maybe it's not necessarily for him the road factor as much as it is the streakiness of his play.
Yep.
Great player when he's hot, but when he's cold,
Yeah,
it goes down.
Yeah, and that last player I want to bring up, Gabe. How did you pronounce his name?
I said Kolster.
Kolster. Okay. He's the outlier for this. He's averaging. He's scored double-digit games, but he's averaging almost 15 points per game on road games, which is better than his overall season mark.
Yeah.
He's shooting 41.4% for field goal on the road, but he's only hitting 26.5% from 3. So, he's not unlike Holmes and Grill. He's a little bit better in terms of scoring-wise, but his percentages are still pretty lower.
But I think that consistency, and that's why I wanted to start with him when we started talking about Iowa State, because he is their most consistent player.
Yeah, as of late. Definitely as of late.
Certainly as of late, once they got into conference play, he's really kind of taken it to a new level.
Yep.
But I think throughout the season, he's really been a consistent player for them. And he's been able to just come in and get it done. On the road, at home, whatever he's got to do, he's done it for the team. And I think that's the example that's being set by him. If that can translate to the rest of the team, I do think Iowa State makes a really deep run for March Madness.
Yep.
But I think in this game alone, I don't know if we're going to see that.
Yep. And moving away from just, the difference between Iowa State playing in their own building versus playing in a different building, this is just overall in the season. So they're averaging 71.2 points per game, right? They're not averaging the 80, the 90 points per game. So that's not an extreme amount of points. However, if they get over the 60-point mark, and I think you mentioned this to me when we were making our notes, when they get over the 60 mark, they're undefeated. However, in their 3 losses, they scored 53, 56, and 60. Oklahoma State's defense is averaging just around that 60-point mark in terms of points per game. So that's something that I've noticed. That's another that could be
You're right.
the difference between this game.
That's something I did want to talk about when we were getting ready for this, because I do feel that's such a big thing. When you have a defense like Oklahoma State that is managing to keep opponents, for the most part, under that 60-point line, and Iowa State scores 61 or more, they win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And obviously it's not foolproof. They've only had a couple of losses, but when all those losses come at a point margin that's below a certain threshold,
Yep.
I think, and that threshold is what OSU's defense is allowing. I think that's something we have to talk about, because the defense is going to be a huge storyline for this game.
Yep.
I mean, as we talked about, OSU's offense, not really the greatest. Their defense is mainly what they've been relying on.
Their defense is what? I think it was 12th in defensive efficiency. It's in the top 10% of all of college basketball in metrics. And so same thing for Iowa State. So maybe, we'll see, if OSU wins, holds them under 60, maybe we could see a continuation of that trend. But I think it's a realistic possibility. I mean, Oklahoma State held Texas under 56, but they only scored 46 points.
Exactly.
So that was a big thing there. Another thing that is bad, or that is a weakness, regardless of the building they play in, is Iowa State's free throw percentage. They're only hitting 67.3% of their free throws, which is the bottom 25% of all of college basketball, and that's dead last in the Big 12. And then the road, go back to the road thing, it's even worse. They're averaging 59%. Which is a 7-point drop. So free throws, the freebies, we talked about this with OSU earlier, the freebie throws that you got to hit, Iowa State, I wouldn't necessarily trust them to be hitting all of those.
I wouldn't necessarily trust them to be hitting them either. And here's the other thing, is in a game like today, and I don't know about you, but I'm expecting a defensive matchup.
Oh, yeah.
I'm expecting this to be a
100%.
close-
100%.
I-
I'm not
especially with
expecting
teams
an
like this.
80-80 matchup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially with a team like this, those free throws, when you get to that line, are going to be crucial. I mean, those free throws could be the difference between walking out of here for Iowa State, walking out of here with a win, or going home with their tails tucked between their legs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, free throws. And one other weakness I've got for them, they don't rebound really well. They're in the bottom quarter in terms of rebounds per game. They're ninth in the Big 12. Their defensive rebounds are even worse. That's the bottom 10% of all of college basketball, and dead last in the Big 12. So rebounding, free throw shooting, and just being in a different atmosphere seems to be really the biggest weakness for this Iowa State team, and it could come back to bite them.
I think it comes back to bite them, because you're talking about an Oklahoma State team at home who had fans show up just the other day on a Wednesday night. Yeah, it's Bedlam, but I mean, still, it's a Wednesday night. Today you have a Saturday afternoon.
Saturday 1 o'clock.
I'm expecting the fans to turn out today. And, when you combine that with the fact that you're looking at the statistics that Iowa State is not great in, are stuff that we can, take advantage of.
Yeah.
And, especially stuff like the free throws, like the rebounds. This is a good rebounding team. It is a good, solid defensive team. If we can hold them, if we can play that kind of a game, I think we're winning today.
Yeah. I mean, Iowa State, we're making such a big deal about all these weaknesses. Iowa State's a really good team, like everywhere else. They're ranked 12th for a reason. But these weaknesses are not exactly ones that you can just sweep under a rug and not worry about.
The reason we're bringing them up is because they will play a big part in today's game when you think about the atmosphere, that OSU rebounds really well, they block really well, they have a great defense, and that's taken nothing away from Iowa State. As you said, great team.
Yep.
But that's where I'm sitting at it when you look at the box scores.
Yep. And then road for the road game for that. But Oklahoma State at home is something different that we'll hit into for the next segment. Commercial break, and we'll be back with Ocali Tipoff.
My name's Kayla. I've been here since the beginning, so 4 years. Scratch is more focused on farm and mostly made in Oklahoma products, keeping it local. Sustainability is our biggest thing. That's one of the reasons why this place opened.
I've been the chef here at Scratch for 2.5 years. Started here as a line cook. Our food and drinks are a bit separate entities almost inside the restaurant. So the food is now up to 85% of the products we bring in are raised or grown locally. It's all based off of things that I grew up eating in southern Oklahoma, the things my grandparents ate.
About fresh food, clean food, organic food, sustainability, that's all of our thing. From front of house to back of house, we're able to maintain both with freshness. But made in Oklahoma means we get it straight from the farms that are 20, 30 minutes, another little county away. We get it straight from them.
We would design something, it was set on the counter, and people was either, if enough of them said, this isn't it never made to the line. Dad was excited that They're all original. They were all designed on Mom's kitchen table, and it gets in your blood after a while.
We're very happy that Pamela and Michael have taken over the business and kept the family going.
We took the business over in 2017. When we found that it was available, we wanted to keep the legacy of family alive, but it was also incredible products that deserved to be a part of Made in Oklahoma's story. We were a part of Made in Oklahoma years ago, and so it kind of grew as Made in Oklahoma grew.
Oklahoma is ingrained into everything that we did. We've been here most of our life. That's what we entailed our whole business on, was the Oklahoma homegrown feeling.
Welcome back. Oh, welcome back to the O'Cauley Tipoff show here. Jacob Patterson, Tyler Trudeau.
How you doing today, Jacob? So now that we're back, I think why don't we go ahead and I want to talk about Oklahoma State here.
Yeah.
Because we're at home. Oklahoma State's been they're coming off that great win. I want to go into this.
Yeah.
And also I just seeing your great smile has made me so happy for this game. So let's talk about Oklahoma State. Are you gonna be able to talk about Oklahoma
I'm
State?
good. I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good.
Got an infectious laugh over there, Jacob.
Yep.
You got me going. All right. When it comes to Oklahoma State, what do you want to talk about? Because there's quite a few things we go in. We could go in with the fact that they're 0-4 versus top 25 teams. They're 7th in the Big 12. A loss today could drop them down to 8th, depending on what happens. I mean, there's a lot we could talk about. Is there anything in specific you're looking at?
For Oklahoma State, they're better at home than, or at least offensive-wise, they're better at home. They're averaging a little bit more on the major statistical categories at home. So I think that's something to take advantage of, as we were talking about last segment with the road home difference between Iowa State.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we can really take advantage of for Oklahoma State. And I think it's just really the biggest thing is building on performance from Wednesday night.
Yeah, it's building on that OU
like
game.
3-game skid, awful. Oklahoma, really good game. Do you build on that, or do you have an ugly game? If you have an ugly game today, then it's like, okay, well, maybe the OU was an outlier, and this team really hasn't changed that much.
Yeah, I mean, I think here's the thing: is the potential exists as it is an outlier. It was one game. There was a 3-game losing streak before that where we weren't doing good. I mean, 53.7 points per game versus the 72 points we put up against OU. It's a very big turnaround, but I also think what's happening is we're seeing the fruits of OSU's labor. The work they've been putting in is finally starting to become apparent on the court. All that they've been doing is finally starting to click. And I just think with the efficiency that they were scoring against OU, with how they were doing it, just the overall court feel, I think they're finally getting to that point where they're starting to figure it out.
Yeah, which is good, because you're hitting into the meat of the Big 12 schedule. And
Exactly.
I'm gonna be honest with you, there's not many more games that Oklahoma State can lose and just rely on playing in the Big 12 to get an at-large bid in the tournament here.
Yeah.
But they're 2-4. They've got 8 losses. It was really starting to get pushed back against the wall here, which I think is another reason why this Iowa State game is big, and while OU is big. It's like, okay, get the morale up, get rid of the losing streak, make sure everything's stable here as we get into. And I wish I had pulled up the schedule after the Iowa State game just to see. I think they play Texas on Tuesday. That's another ranked team in Austin. So I mean, we're getting into the heart of the Big 12 schedule, where Oklahoma State's just going to simply have to step it up if they have any postseason aspirations.
Exactly, and I think this is a team that does have postseason aspirations. It's
a defense that can play in the postseason.
It's a defense that can play in the postseason. The thing that they have been having to figure out is that offense, and I think OU was the game where they finally started to click. I mean,
which is big, and
it's what they needed, because getting rid of that losing streak is key. I mean, that's paramount number one.
Yep.
But doing it in the fashion that they did on Wednesday, not only does that get rid of that losing streak, but it builds confidence on the team. It builds confidence for the fan base. I mean, when you look at this, you figure that they have a couple weeks left of the season. They've got the rest of the Big 12, and then they've got the Big 12 tournament. If they want to secure that March Madness tournament play,
just go ahead and get it done with, and just have a phenomenal phenomenal finish.
They've got a lot of opportunities to pick up quality wins over quality opponents. The Big 12 is in my opinion, one of the best conferences in basketball.
It is the best. I mean, you've got like 50% of the conference I think is ranked.
Exactly.
In terms of strength of schedule, which is something I just remembered here. In terms of strength of schedule remaining, Oklahoma State's got the 10th hardest remaining schedule. You know who's the 9 teams above them? They're the rest of the Big 12.
Rest of the Big 12.
So, like, I mean, the Big 12 is the best basketball conference, at least this year, in terms of the quality of each and every opponent. Because while Kansas is really good, you know, for a team like, you know, the WCC with Gonzaga's, and this is a bad example, but Gonzaga, you know, really good. The rest of that conference is not great.
Yeah.
For Big 12, Kansas is really good. Kansas State, TCU, and then you get to the bottom end, Tech, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, OU. They're really quality opponents still down the stretch, despite the records.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. In the past 4 years, you know, Kansas and Baylor both have taken home national championships, and they're still
back-to-back champs for
They're
Big
still
12.
relevant to the discussion because they're still both very good teams this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you take that into account, you take and you think about the fact that Oklahoma State is finally starting to put stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
I think moving forward, if they can build on that today with a big win at home against Iowa State, I'm going to be feeling a lot better about this team.
Yep. We'll hit the keys to the game, our keys to the game, on how OSU can have success against Iowa State in a few minutes here. But first, we're going to go through get the score updates real fast.
Sure
We'll go through there's a handful of ranked games that we can just quickly hit on. Xavier is beating up on a really bad Georgetown team, as expected. Yep. Xavier's ranked 8th. I think they just beat UConn a few games ago. So that's a big win there. The Miami Duke game we're hitting the last 3 minutes. Duke's up by a point.
Yeah,
so,
neck and neck, and that's what we thought.
That was expected. Then you've got Charleston, who is a really good conference out of the handful of lower end conferences there. They're ranked 18th. They're 20-1. They're beating up on their opponent Northeastern. Arkansas beating up on Ole Miss. Arkansas is having a little bit of a down slope here recently, but this is a big win to pick up against a mediocre Ole Miss team.
I mean, and definitely a good thing to see that win there. I know we've got a guy in the studio here who's going to be very happy to hear that news.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He's probably watching it now. To be honest,
he is.
And I'm glad. Yeah, and Arkansas, good win there for Ole Miss too. For Ole Miss purposes, they're not that great, and it could be a decent boost to the schedule here when Oklahoma State plays Ole Miss here in a few seconds.
Now I have a few days because we talked about that Kansas TCU game, and I'm curious to see how that's going.
Yeah. So TCU. Okay. Kansas has kind of made a little bit of a comeback here. They were down by a lot a few minutes ago. It's 46-34. It's still a 12-point. Kansas is still down by 12 here, but 2 minutes in the second half and anything is possible.
I mean, anything is possible. I mean, that's looking a little rough for my predictions, but I think I'll survive. But we'll see if they can end up making that comeback. I think that wraps it up for the games that we got to look at going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to talk about now is I've got 3 questions for you.
All right.
And I've entitled them layup, free throw, and 3-point.
Okay.
Layup's the easiest, 3-point's the hardest.
Okay.
So we'll see how you do here.
All right. We'll see.
For the layup, does Caleb Boone lead the team in scoring?
Layup, does Caleb Boone lead the team in scoring? He was the second leading scorer against OU. I think he's hit double digits the past 4 or 5, I think.
I believe it's 4 games.
He's a really good veteran. He's been here for a few years. He knows the system, and he's really a hype man for Oklahoma State. Whenever something big happens, like especially in Bedlam, when something big happens, he's going crazy with this, and he's interacting almost with the student section in that manner. So he's a really big presence for this team. Does he lead the team in points? I think it's a realistic expectation to do that, depending on how Bryce Thompson and Avery Anderson does, because they're really just true wild card teams. I think there's a good chance for that, but for the sake of just having Avery Anderson and Bryce Thompson and hoping that they can build something more, I'm going to say no, and I think it's going to be Bryce Thompson or Avery Anderson, one of the two, although I would think there's a big chance that he could lead the team in scoring. I think he's done it a couple times this year. I think the 2 guards, Thompson and Anderson, I think could really could pass him up with that capacity.
That's fair. All right, well, let's move to the free throw.
Okay.
Does Musa Cisse start? Now, obviously, he played last game, but he didn't start.
Yeah, he came off the bench, I think, at the beginning of the second half or something. Cisse, does he start? I haven't gotten any word recently before the shows when I last checked, so I don't. Going into this, I'm not sure the state of him right now. It's really he's a really big presence on especially on defense. Really big presence on offense. Oklahoma State would really like to have him back, but just the way that they played without him they had the rough 3-game stretch. The first 3 games he missed were 3 losses, but the 4-guard lineup that they rolled out with Woody Newton making his first start, that seemed to work out really well. I'm not saying we keep him out here, but I'm saying that if he's not 100%, I think they still roll with that 4-guard lineup. I'm going to say if he starts, No, because he only played 2 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. And if it had been 10 minutes off the bench, 15 minutes off the bench,
Maybe.
then I totally might say yes. But I don't think he starts today. I think he does come off the bench for a few, maybe 5 or 6 minutes today.
That's fair. Slowly kind of start building his load.
Yep.
That's fair. So for the 3-point, and this one I'm curious to see your answer on this.
Okay.
Oklahoma State, do they hit over 40% on free throws and 3-pointers?
Free throws and 3-pointers.
And 3-pointers. Got to hit over 40% on both. No, you don't think so?
Not 3-pointers.
They did it. They
did.
it
They
last
did
game.
do it against OU, but the season's wide. I mean, at home, only hitting 32% from 3. Overall, they're not. I mean, that's overall they're only hitting 32% from 3. They did hit really well. They did go for 40 against OU, and I think they've got that capability. But it's really just how well does Thompson, how well does Avery Anderson, how well does John Michael Wright, who's been really cold, how well he does, how well does Caleb Asbury do? Those are the 4 really that I'm expecting that are the really the big 3-point shooters here. The ones that I expect to do. I'm gonna say no. Iowa State's got a really good. Really good. They don't even those road stats. They don't even allow 40% from 3 on the road. They only allow they allow less than 30% from 3. I just don't think. I don't think they hit it.
You
I don't think they
happens?
build up. Maybe an expectation for them would be maybe hitting 35. That's above average for them.
Okay.
But 40%, I don't think that's
Think it's
realistic
out of
for
reach.
this game.
That's fair.
Game.
That's fair.
No.
I mean, coming off the performance they had against OU, the possibility existed, but I do tend to agree with you there on that one.
Okay.
So I mean, that was my 3 questions for you. I think you've done admirably, and we'll see what happens.
We'll
during the
see.
game
We'll
for 'em.
see.
Now I think that brings us to the keys to victory here.
All right. What
So let's start with you. We're
Okay.
going off. We're interviewing you right now. What are your keys?
keys to victor, I think, is just limiting the offensive explosiveness, I think. And actually, I'm going to back up on that first. I think the biggest key to victory is off the court.
Okay.
It's the student section. It's how many people
100%.
attend.
That is my number one key as
If
well.
it's the Southern Illinois crowd, I don't think that's not a really good key to victory. But if it's the OU crowd,
I think we got something going.
I think there's something going. That's my first key to the victory, and that wasn't really an in game. That was just something else. But I think the one I was about to get to before that was just limiting the points, keeping up and maintaining the bad offensive stats that Iowa State has on the road. 62 points per game on the road for Iowa State. Maintain that, and I think you put yourself in a really good spot. 62 points per game. Oklahoma State's averaging almost 70 points per game at home. I think if you just maintain that and just maintain all the weaknesses apparently that Iowa State has on the road, I think that's a big thing there.
I agree with you there. And I think for my keys, pretty much all the same thing. I mean, it's keeping them below that 60-point mark. It's, that home court advantage. Get the fans in the building. That is my biggest key, and I know it's off the court, but it's been such a big thing for the team this year, and such a big thing going against Iowa State this year as well. And it's just something for me that's very important, as well as, and you said 62, keep them below 60.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
we found
that's
that in the
would-
notes.
yep.
Just keep them below 60 and let your offense take care of the rest. For me, that would be my keys to the victory. I am curious, though.
Yeah.
We're about to get to the game. I mean, the game starts in just
3
under 3
minutes,
minutes
yep.
here. What's your score prediction?
My score prediction, I've just been thinking about this. I think it's both under 60. I don't think Oklahoma State's dumping a lot of points on them. I'm going to go say 58-54 Oklahoma State because go
Interesting.
Pokes.
I agree with you there. I will get with you there. What I'm going to say, though, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say 64-58 OSU.
Okay.
Again, go Pokes, but that's what it is
Go
for
Pokes. All right. Oklahoma State, Iowa State, tipping off in a few minutes there. Thank you for joining us for the Okali. We'll see you on Tuesday against Texas. Thank you.
Over the years, we kind of realized that you can get ribs anywhere. You can get a steak anywhere. But you can't always get a Mountain View hot link like ours. So we really decided to focus on that niche and realized we had something really special. So that's when we started focusing more on the hot links. But it's still the same family recipe they were making all those years ago. For us, many of our people that work here have been with us for years and decades. So whereas machines kind of break down over time, the people just get better. And it shows in the products we produce. When you buy a Mountain View product, not only is it going to taste dynamite, but you're also feeding Oklahomans. You're helping employ Oklahomans, and you're helping to fund the state's economy. So what's better than that?
the very best of the best ingredients. Demerara sugar is the best that is. Very high quality fruits, berries. The milk we use is the best milk there is. That's why it makes our product stand by itself. I like to make yogurt because I like to eat yogurt. We've been doing this for ourselves for many years because it's a tradition in our family. And we want to have a product which would be very similar to French yogurt, but with our touch of uniqueness, linking our name, our products, with the reputation of the Made in Oklahoma Coalition was probably the best thing we have done as far as promoting our product.